It was raining, the kind of rain that makes the streets feel like rivers and the world feel like it's been wiped clean. I ducked into the nearest café, water dripping off my jacket, and stood there like a soaked statue, awkward and foreign. The place was small. Plastic stools, flickering lights, steam rising from every table. I took a seat near the window, watching the blur of scooters and umbrellas outside, unsure if I'd made a mistake coming here at all. That's when she walked over. No introduction, no English, just a warm smile and a gentle nod. She placed a bowl of pho in front of me, then pointed at the rain with a little laugh. "You wet like a cat," she said. I laughed for the first time in days. I didn't come here looking for love. I came to forget. After 22 years, my wife told me she was done, said I was too quiet, too boring, too stuck in my ways. The house we bought together became hers. Retirement plans? Gone. I got in the car and was silent. Vietnam wasn't on my list, but a friend from the community center said it was cheap, peaceful. I needed both. So I booked a flight. And now here I was, dripping wet, eating soup with a woman who didn't look at me like I was broken. She came back with tea. "Ginger," she said. "Good for old men like you." I raised an eyebrow. "You calling me old already?" She grinned. "Not old, just slow." I shook my head, smiling. "I'm Jim." She nodded, took the stool across from me. "Lynn." She didn't ask why I was in Hanoi, didn't try to sell me a tour or a trinket. She just asked if I liked pho. "It's better than the stuff I used to get back home," I said. "My wife always burns the noodles." That slipped out before. I meant it to. Lynn tilted her head. "Wife, you are not with her now?" I stirred my soup. "Not anymore, she's back in the States with someone new, I guess." Lynn didn't press, just looked out the window. Rain is a good day to forget. I didn't want to leave the cafe. Something about her voice, her way of talking without trying too hard, made the air feel lighter. I asked if she owned the place. She shook her head. "Just help. Boss is my uncle. I cook, I serve, no big life." I asked how long she'd been working there. "Long enough," she said. "Long enough to know tourists don't come for rain." I laughed again. "I'm not really a tourist." "Then what are you?" she asked. I paused. "I guess I'm lost." Trying not to be, she didn't blink, just sipped her tea. "You look sad, but you eat like a happy man." I wiped my mouth. "Food's good. You made it." She nodded. "Of course. You think Uncle cooks like this?" I glanced around. A young couple was laughing in the corner. A man was playing chess with an older lady near the back. It wasn't much of a place, but it felt warm. Safe. She looked at my hands. "You teacher?" I nodded. "Used to be. High school history. Retired now." She smiled. "You have soft hands, like not building houses." I chuckled. "Nope, just books and chalkboards." She looked impressed. "Teacher is a good job. Are you smart?" I raised my brow again. "Depends who you ask." She smiled wide. "I ask you, you say yes or no." I leaned in. "I'm smart enough to know you're trying to trick me." She laughed, her face lighting up. We sat like that for almost an hour. No rush, no pressure. She talked about the flood last year, how it knocked out the power in the neighborhood. I told her about the snowstorm that stranded me in Chicago for 3 days. We traded weather stories like they were old memories. She didn't ask for my number, didn't flirt or touch my arm or talk about needing help. She just made sure my tea stayed hot and that I had enough chili in my bowl. Before I left, she stood up and said, "You come tomorrow, same time, rain or no rain." I hesitated at the door. "What if I'm not hungry?" She shrugged. "Come anyway, maybe just for tea." I stepped back into the rain, but it didn't feel so heavy. My clothes were still wet, my shoes still squeaked. But something about that tiny cafe, that girl with the smart mouth and kind eyes, it stayed with me. I didn't know what I was walking toward, but for the first time since I boarded that flight, I wasn't looking back. I told her about the divorce over a bowl of duck noodles. She sat across from me, legs folded beneath her on a wooden stool, eyes wide but not judging. She said I was too quiet, I said. Said I was always more somewhere else. Lynn tilted her head. Maybe you just think deep. I smiled. That's generous. I think I just stopped talking when I stopped being heard. She didn't rush to reply, just reached over and filled my tea without a word. That silence hit me differently. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was kind. "And your kids?" she asked softly. I looked down. 2 boys. One's in Arizona, the other's in North Carolina. We text on birthdays. That's about it. She frowned. "No visit?" I shook my head. "They've got lives. I was never really a fun parent." She leaned forward, eyes locking with mine. "Are you having fun now?" I let out a small laugh. "No, but I'm trying." She invited me to her apartment that weekend, said she wanted to cook something more Vietnamese than what the tourists eat. "You like bitter melon?" she asked. "Can't say I've tried." She grinned. "Then today you grow up." I bought a cheap bottle of wine and knocked on her door like a nervous teenager. The place was small, 1 bedroom, tiled floor, a thin curtain separating the bed from the kitchen. But it was clean. Pictures taped to the wall, a fan that buzzed like a dragonfly. It smelled like garlic and pepper and something sweet underneath. "Take off shoes," she said, tugging at my elbow. "I mopped today." A little girl peeked around the corner and grinned. "That's Duyen," Lynn said. "My niece. She lives with me sometimes." Duyen waved. "You old?" she said, giggling. I laughed. "I've been told that before." She ran over and hugged my leg like we were old friends. Lynn whispered, "She never does that. She is usually shy." I felt something shift in my chest. A tightness I didn't realize I'd been carrying eased a little. We sat on the floor to eat. Lynn handed me a bowl and watched closely as I took the first bite. "Well?" she asked. "Be honest." I coughed. "It's bitter." She burst out laughing. "Yes, that's the point. Good for blood. Make you strong." I took another bite, wincing. "Strong and confused." She laughed harder. "Confused is normal. You are not in America now." After dinner, she brought out a deck of old cards. "We play? I will teach you Vietnamese games." Duyen sat beside me, explaining the rules like she'd been doing it for years. I let them win at first, then I didn't have to try. Lynn looked up at me when I lost for the 3rd time and said, "You are gentle, not like other men here." I blinked. "What do you mean?" She shrugged. "Many men come, want young girl, an easy life, they yell or drink too much. I just want to listen." I didn't know what to say, so I nodded, and I meant it. We started seeing each other every few days after that. She'd message me, "Rain coming? Soup today? Or too hot? You bring ice cream?" I began waiting for her messages more than I cared to admit. I stopped checking Facebook, stopped tracking the news. Vietnam became smaller and softer. Just me, her, Duyen's laughter, and that little café that always smelled like onions. One night I asked her, "Why me?" She didn't pretend not to understand. She set down her chopsticks, looked straight at me. "Because you do not act like you deserve me, you just here." I tried to laugh, but my throat caught. "That's it. That's enough," she said. There was something about the way she moved through her world, always with purpose, never trying to impress. I'd watch her talk to vendors, haggle with the fish guy, carry Duyen on her hip while arguing with her landlord. She never asked for help, never hinted at needing anything from me. That scared me, not because it felt fake, but because I wanted to be needed, and she didn't seem to need anyone. One day I said, "You're the strongest person I've met in a long time." She smirked. "Then why do you always carry bags?" I smiled. "Because I want to." Sometimes I'd sit in her apartment while she cleaned. No music, just the sound of the fan and the city outside. I'd watch Duyen draw pictures of dogs and houses and women with long hair. "That's you," she said once, pointing to a stick. "Figure with glasses." I asked, "Where's me?" She drew a small square. "You the window," Lynn laughed. "She means you are always looking, always quiet." I nodded. "Yeah, that sounds right." There were moments I wanted to tell her. I loved her, but I didn't. Not yet. I wasn't sure if I did or if I just loved who I was when I was around her. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that's what healing looked like at 64. Not big gestures, just soup, quiet hands, and not feeling like a ghost in your own story. I offered to buy her a new rice cooker, the one she had sparked when she plugged it in, and I half joked that I didn't want to die eating lunch. She waved me off. "No need," she said. "Still works. Just make noise." I said, "Let me do this. It's nothing." She smiled, but it faded fast. "Jim, no. I don't want you to think I want things." That stung more than I expected. "It's not about things, it's just I care about you, Lynn." She stared at the counter. "If you care, don't buy. Just come." That should have been enough. I told myself it was. A few days later, we were sitting by the lake watching boats glide by when she said, "Landlord raise rent again." I looked over. "How much?" She shook her head. "Too much. I may move soon." I hesitated. "I can help, just until you figure it out." She raised her hand. "No, you already do enough. You bring food, you take me to nice places, that's enough." I didn't push, but the silence between us stretched longer than it used to. Later that night, she messaged, "Maybe just this once, okay?" I replied, "Okay." I met Mai a week later. Lynn said she was her sister, but there was no resemblance. We met at a small market near their apartment. Mai was friendly but guarded. She looked me up and down, then said, "You good to Lynn?" I nodded. "I try to be." She picked up a bag of rice and said, "She does not trust easy. Last man hurt her. Not like you." I didn't know what to say. I asked, "What happened?" She shrugged. "Many things. Old story. Your new story." That stuck with me. New story. I wanted to believe I was something different for her. But then Lynn disappeared for a day. No call, no message. I checked my phone 10 times, maybe more. I went by the café. Her uncle said she wasn't working that day. I walked by her apartment that evening, no light inside. I told myself not to panic. Maybe she was with Mai. Maybe her niece needed her. Maybe I was being crazy. The next morning she texted, "Sorry, phone broke. I sleep early. You worry too much." I asked, "You okay?" She replied, "Yes, always okay." That was it. Nothing more. I wanted to ask questions. I didn't. I met her that night like nothing happened. "You look tired," she said. I said, "Didn't sleep much." She touched my arm. "Because of me?" I nodded. "Yeah." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "Sorry. I am not used to people who care like that. I should have asked more." But the way she looked at me, soft, quiet, I didn't want to break it. I needed that moment to be real. It started happening more often. A full day without a word, then two. Each time, a new reason. My niece was sick. I left my phone at Mai's. "Too much work, sorry." I kept hearing that voice in my head. "Don't be the jealous old man, trust her. She's not like the others." And still something itched at me. I asked Tom, my friend from the expat group, "Is it normal for things to feel good, but also off?" He laughed. "You're 64, Jim. Nothing ever feels just one thing." One night I told her I'd booked a weekend in Sapa. "Let's go, just us." She looked down. "I can't. Work is too busy." I said, "I'll pay for what you lose." She shook her head. "Not about money. I don't like mountains. Make me feel closed." That didn't sound like her. The week before, she talked about how much she missed green places. "We can plan something else," I said. "Maybe next month?" She nodded. "Yes, next month will be better." Later, that night I lay awake wondering why my chest felt heavy. I had no proof, no big sign, but the pattern was starting to form. I told myself she was just independent, that her life was hard, that maybe this was how people survived here, careful, guarded, unpredictable. And still, I stared at the ceiling. Phone on my chest, waiting for a message that never came. My visa had 34 days left. I knew because I checked it every morning like a countdown clock. I mentioned it to Lynn one night over dinner, trying to keep my voice light. "Might be heading back to the States sooner than I thought," I said, half joking. She didn't laugh. She just stared into her soup. "You don't want to stay?" I reached for her hand. Of course I do. But I can't keep bouncing between borders every few months. She looked up slowly. There is a way, maybe. But maybe you do not want that. I asked, what way? She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. If we marry, you stay. A long time. I blinked. Marry? She shrugged. Silly joke. Forget it. But I didn't forget it. A week passed. We barely talked about it, but I kept hearing that word in my head. Marry. I couldn't tell if it scared me or pulled me in. Then one afternoon, as rain poured against the cafe windows, I looked at her across the same table where we first met and said, "Let's do it." She tilted her head. Do what? I took a deep breath. Marry. You and me. Her mouth parted, but no sound came out. I reached for her hand. I'm not asking because of the visa. I'm asking because this feels real. You feel real. Her eyes watered. She whispered, Jim, I don't know what to say. I said, say yes. She didn't say yes. She just cried. I thought they were happy tears. We didn't rush anything. I asked what she wanted, a big ceremony or something small. She said, just paper is okay. We do not need a dress or flowers. That's for movies. I smiled. All right, just paper, just us. I offered to help with her place too. Her old apartment had a broken water line and mold creeping up the walls. I found a better one near the market. You don't have to do this, she said when I handed over the cash. I said, I know I don't, but I want to. She touched my cheek and said, you are too good sometimes, make me feel small. I moved some of her things while she worked. Duyan helped. She insisted on carrying her toys herself. Lynn wasn't there when we finished, and she didn't answer when I texted. That was the first night I stayed at the new place alone. I figured maybe she was overwhelmed. Maybe this was a big step for her too. I kept repeating that word, maybe, until I fell asleep on the floor with the lights still on. The next morning I called. No answer. Midday she texted, sorry, busy with my talk tonight. I replied, okay, I miss you. No reply. That night she showed up with bags of groceries and a half smile. Have you eaten yet? I said, I was waiting for you. She nodded. Good, we're cooking now. I asked, are you okay? She didn't meet my eyes. Just tired, too much change. I reached for her waist. We don't have to rush anything, we can take it slow. She turned to the stove. We will sign the paper soon. That's not slow. I stepped back. Do you want this? She didn't answer right away. Then quietly, I think I do. But sometimes I'm scared. I said, so am I. We started preparing documents. I booked an appointment with the immigration lawyer another expat had recommended. Lynn missed the first one. I forget, she said. Work is too busy. I rescheduled. At the second one, she barely spoke. The lawyer asked, do you have any previous marriages? I looked at her. She said, no, just boyfriends before, nothing serious. Her voice was flat. On the walk back, I said, you seemed quiet in there. She shrugged. Too many questions make me feel like a criminal. I tried to lighten the mood. Well, if you are, at least you're the prettiest criminal I've ever met. She smiled weakly, but it vanished fast. Nights changed. She went to bed earlier. She spent more time texting someone than flipped the phone face down when I walked in. Work friend, she'd say. Always ask silly things. I nodded, pretending not to notice the tension crawling. Into our home, I brought it up once. You feel different lately. She sat on the bed, brushing her hair. Because everything is different. New house, paper, you, it's a lot, Jim. I knelt in front of her. I'm here. I want this to feel safe. She looked at me like she was searching for something. Sometimes, safety feels like a trap. I didn't know what to say to that. I kissed her hand and left it alone. That night, I lay beside her while she scrolled through her phone in the dark. I kept my eyes closed, pretending I was asleep. But my heart was wide awake. Something had shifted. I just didn't know how deep the crack was yet. I woke up and reached across the bed. Her side was cold. I checked my phone. 2:17 a.m. No messages. I got up, walked to the window, stared out at the empty street. The motorbikes had gone quiet. Hanoi was finally asleep, except me. I sent a text. "You okay?" Nothing. I called. Straight to voicemail. I stood there like an idiot, phone in my hand, heart pounding for no good reason. I told myself maybe she stayed at Mai's. Maybe she forgot her charger. Maybe I was being dramatic again. I made coffee I didn't want. I stared at the front. Door like it might blink. By noon, still no word. I messaged again. "Please just tell me you're okay." Nothing. I didn't know where to go, who to ask. The café said she hadn't been in all day. Mai didn't answer. I sat at the kitchen. Table, lights off, fan spinning above my head like a slow clock. Then finally at 6:42 p.m, a single message. "Sorry, busy day, phone dead, I will come tonight." That was it. I stared at it for a while, no apology, no explanation, just a short rope I kept tying around my own neck. She showed up around 9. Smelled like perfume I didn't recognize. "Have you eaten yet?" she asked, like we hadn't skipped an entire day. I said, "Where were you?" She dropped her bag on the chair. "With Mai. She does not feel good." I looked at her. "You didn't think to borrow a phone? Just to let me know?" She started unpacking groceries. "Too much stress, I forget." "Why do you always think bad?" I took a step closer. "Because I didn't sleep last night, Lynn. I thought something happened to you." She turned to me. "Nothing happened, you make a big deal." I lowered my voice. "It is a big deal, you disappear. No call, no message." She frowned. "You act like I belong to you." I stepped back. "That's not what I said." She pointed at me. "You think because you help with the apartment I must tell you every minute? I am not a child. I wanted to say no, I wanted to say I just cared. But the words got tangled in my throat. She walked past me, dropped into bed and said, "I'm tired. No fight, okay?" I stood in the hallway, staring at her silhouette through the curtain. I waited for her to say more. She didn't. I went back to the couch. The next morning I met Tom for coffee. I told him everything. He listened, stirred his black coffee, then said, "Jim, you need to be careful. This place, it's not your home." "Not really." I said, "She's not like that." He leaned forward. "You sure? Or you just need her not to be?" I didn't answer. He tapped the table. "Sometimes wanting something real makes us ignore what's right in front of us." I nodded like I understood, but I didn't want to. That night, she didn't come home again. I waited. Midnight passed. 1 a.m. passed. I laid down, staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed. Some app alert, not her. I wanted to call again, but I didn't want to feel that silence hit me back. I closed my eyes. Tried to dream of home, but even my dreams were quiet now. Just empty rooms and locked phones. I was still pretending not to notice what I already knew. Her phone lit up while she was in the shower. I didn't mean to look. I really didn't. But it vibrated twice, and the screen flashed his name. I didn't recognize it, but I saw the heart emojis, 3 of them. Red. I stared at the screen until it dimmed again. My hand hovered for a second. I told myself not to. I told myself I trusted her, but my thumb moved on its own. I tapped. The lock screen was open. No code, just a swipe. One motion, and I was in. The messages were in Vietnamese. I couldn't. Read most of it, but I knew what "An meant. I'd heard it enough in local dramas, "I love you." Then a voice note. I didn't play it. I backed out, opened the gallery. There were beach photos. Lots of them. Blue sky, sand. Her in a sundress I'd never seen before. Her holding a drink with a little umbrella. Her laughing mid-step. Her kissing someone's cheek. Not me. I heard the water stop. I froze. I wanted to put the phone back. I really did. But my hand was still clenched around it when she stepped out, towel wrapped around her chest, steam trailing behind her. She saw the screen, saw my face, and then her voice came out like a slap. "What are you doing?" I turned the phone toward her. "Who is this?" She snatched it from my hand. "You look through my phone?" I took a step back. "Lynn, just tell me who he is." She pointed at me, shaking. "You're crazy, you do not trust me." My heart was hammering. Then tell me, is this your boyfriend? Is this who you've been with when you disappear for 2 days? She laughed. Short, sharp. I am not your wife, you do not own me. I raised my voice. I never said I owned you, but we're engaged. We signed the paper, remember? This isn't just dinner and goodbye anymore. She turned her back. You think paper means everything? I do that for you, for your visa. You want to stay, so we sign, but I never say I love you. My stomach dropped. So all of this, what was it? She grabbed a drawer and started, throwing clothes into a bag. It was nice, you are nice, but too much, too many questions, too much old man worry. I stepped forward. Lynn, just stop packing for a second, talk to me. Did you love me at all? She zipped the bag. I don't know what love means to you. You are lonely. You come to Vietnam. You want someone to hold your hand. Hold it. Now you cry? I stared at her, everything inside me ripping apart. You let me plan a life with you. You let me believe. She cut me off. You believe what you want. I am not lying. I just don't say. My voice cracked. You called me gentle. You said I wasn't like the others. She looked right at me then. You don't. But I'm still bored. My mouth opened, then closed. I couldn't find air. I gave you everything. She laughed again, but softer now. No. You gave what you needed to give. I take it because I need to, but not forever. I reached out, she pulled away. Don't touch me. I let my hand fall. She slung the bag over her shoulder. I'm going to stay with Mai. You stay here. You have a sofa, fridge, and aircon. That's enough, I whispered. That's not what I wanted. She paused at the door. Then you come to the wrong country. The door slammed. I stood there, alone, barefoot, the tile cold under my feet, the echo still ringing. I looked at the couch, the tea kettle, the shoes lined up by the door, all the pieces of a life I thought we were building together. I sat down slowly, heart still thudding, and finally let the weight of it settle in. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't far. It wasn't fear. It was betrayal. Quiet, clean, and complete. I messaged her that night. Please, just meet me once. I don't want to fight. I just need to understand. I stared at the screen for nearly an hour before her reply came. Tomorrow, café, same time. I didn't. Sleep? I sat on the edge of the bed listening to the fan hum above my head, wondering what part of me she'd taken that I didn't know how to get back. The next afternoon I got there early. I chose our table by the window, the same one where we first met. I ordered tea for two and waited with my hands clenched in my lap. She walked in like nothing had happened. Same walk, same hair tied loosely, at the back. She didn't smile. She sat across from me and looked out the window. Thank you for meeting me, I said. She nodded, eyes still on the rain. I asked why. She didn't look at me. Why what? I leaned forward. Why did you pretend? Why did you let me believe it was real? She finally turned. Her voice was steady. I never promised you anything. My stomach twisted. We signed papers, Lynn. We planned things. You moved in with me. She shrugged. You offered. I accept. That is not the same as a promise. I tried to breathe. So what was I to you? Just convenience. She stirred her tea. You were kind. You helped me. You are quiet. I like that. But you feel too much. I blinked. I feel too much. She nodded. You want big love. Movie love. But I'm not an actress. I clenched my jaw. I didn't want a movie. I wanted honesty. She looked up. You think because you love I must love too? My voice cracked. No. I think if you didn't, you could have said so. She didn't flinch. If I say no from the beginning, will you still stay? I couldn't answer that because I didn't know. She leaned back. You're lonely. You give money. You give time. You give heart. But I never ask for all that. You give because you need, not because I ask. I whispered. You used me. She shook her head. You used me too. To feel young. To feel wanted. We both use it. I looked down at the table, her tea untouched, steam fading. You said I was different. She nodded. You didn't yell, you didn't grab it, you didn't try to control. But still, you want more than I can give. I asked, was there ever a moment where you felt anything? She paused. Maybe. But not enough. She stood up. I move out next week. Keep an apartment. You paid 6 months already. I stared at her. That's it? She tilted her head. What more do you want? I couldn't speak. She adjusted her bag strap. Thank you for everything. Then she walked out. No hug, no goodbye. Just gone. I stayed there for hours. The rain outside came down hard. People came and left. The waiter refilled my tea once, then stopped asking. I watched the water run down the window and thought about the first day I met her. How warm her smile was, how light her laugh sounded when she teased me about being old and slow. I thought about all the nights I waited for her, telling myself she was just busy, just tired, just scared. I wasn't angry, not really. I was just done. Hollow. I felt like a chair after the weight left it, still here, still holding shape. But no one sitting anymore. I didn't leave Hanoi. Everyone thought I would. Tom messaged a week later, said, "Are you heading back soon?" I told him no. He didn't ask why. I think he already knew. It wasn't about her anymore. Not really. It was about sitting in the middle of my own mess and not running from it this time. I stopped going to the café. I couldn't look at that window seat without hearing her laugh, and I was tired of pretending I didn't miss it. I found a different spot down the block. Quiet, plain, no memories stitched into the walls. The woman there didn't know my name. I liked it that way. I walked a lot. Past the lake, through alleys where old men smoked and women sliced papayas barefoot. I watched the city wake up without her in it. I deleted her number 1 this morning while brushing my teeth. No drama, no final message. Just tapped delete and let the phone go dark. I expected to feel something sharp, but it didn't come. Just silence. The kind that creeps in when your heart's already surrendered. Some nights I wrote in a notebook I bought from a street vendor. No fancy thoughts. Just lines like, I let her in because I needed to feel like someone could see. Me again? Or she wasn't the first to leave, just the one I didn't expect. Sometimes I drew boxes, one for each lie I ignored, each red flag I painted white. I filled the pages slowly, as if naming it gave it shape. I didn't want to heal. I just wanted to understand why I let it happen. One afternoon, a local boy tried to sell me postcards near the market. I smiled, shook my head, and said, "No, come on." He asked where I was from. I said, "Here, now." He laughed, didn't believe me, ran off shouting something I didn't catch. I stood there thinking about how long I'd chased places. That made me feel less alone, only to realize I carried the loneliness with me like luggage I never unpacked. I called my son. He didn't answer. I left a voicemail. "Hey, just checking in, nothing urgent, just wanted to hear your voice, I guess." I hung up. That night, I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't sad, just because the sadness felt too familiar to need. Tears. Like a song you've heard so many times, the words don't sting anymore, they just echo. I started tutoring English again. Not for money, just a few local kids in the afternoons. One of them drew a picture of me with a big head and stick, arms, and gave it to me after class. I pinned it above the little desk in my apartment. Duyan used to draw like that. I let myself think of her sometimes. I let myself miss her. But I stopped hoping for a message. That part of me had gone quiet. I walked by Lynn's street once. Just once. The gate was locked, curtains drawn. I didn't stop. I didn't need to. There was nothing left in that building I hadn't already buried in my chest. As I turned the corner, a woman was selling flowers, small white ones I didn't know the name of. I bought a bunch. Not for anyone. I just liked the way they looked, in the kitchen light. That night I sat by the window and watched the rain come down again. The same rain from that first day, the same city. But I wasn't the same man. I didn't want revenge. I didn't even want closure. I just wanted to sit there, quiet and present, and admit something I hadn't been able to say out loud until then. Hanoi wasn't my escape. It was my mirror. And all this time, I'd been running from someone I carried with me. The version of me that believed being needed was the same as being loved. I stayed in Hanoi to learn how to be alone without being empty. I stayed to remember who I was before I forgot. And maybe someday that's enough. I didn't leave Hanoi. Not after the papers, not after the silence, not even after the shame settled into my bones like old rain. Everyone back home assumed I'd pack my bags, chalk it up to a bad story, and return with some bitter wisdom about Southeast Asia. I didn't. I got a smaller place near Trukbak Lake, one room. No curtains, no shared keys. I didn't need much anymore, just quiet, a fan that worked and space to stop pretending. A few months later, I started teaching English again. Nothing official, just a handful of kids who lived nearby. Word spread. Fast. First it was one girl from the café, then her cousin, then a neighbor's boy with his sleeves always rolled up. "You American teacher?" he asked me once. I said, "I used to be." He laughed. "Now you still are." I bought a small whiteboard and stuck it to the wall with tape. We met 3 times a week. They laughed more than they studied, but it was something. Their voices filled the places. Lynn used to haunt. One afternoon after class, the little girl, Lan I think, held up her notebook. She'd drawn a picture of a man with glasses standing under the sun. "Tai Jiao," she said proudly. "Teacher." I smiled and gave her a thumbs up. After they left, I sat on the floor and looked at that drawing for a long time. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel broken. I just felt still. That was new for me. Tom called. Said he was flying back to California for a while. "Are you sure? You're okay staying here?" he asked. I said, "I'm not sure of anything, but I'm okay." He paused. "Have you heard from her?" I said no. He said, "You want to?" I thought about that. Sometimes. Then I remember why I shouldn't. He said, "She didn't deserve what you gave." I said, "Maybe, but I didn't deserve what I needed either." He didn't know how to answer that, and I didn't need him to. I passed by the old cafe once, just to see if it still smelled like ginger and onions. It did. A new girl worked the counter, young, full of energy. She smiled when she saw me. "Coffee or pho?" I shook my head. "Just passing by." She smiled again. "Okay, mister. Next time." I nodded and left. That street used to hold 100 memories. Now it just felt like pavement again. Some nights I still think about Lynn, not with anger, not even regret, just as someone who passed through. She taught me more than she knew, about loneliness, about silence, about how easy it is to mistake kindness for love. I don't blame her. I don't blame myself either. We were both looking for something. She found a way out. I found a way in. I don't tell other men to stay away from Vietnamese women, or Thai women, or love, for that matter. I don't say they're all the same, because they're not. What I say now is different. I say don't ignore your gut. I say don't confuse being needed with being loved. I say make sure you're not giving your heart away just because someone's willing to hold it for a little while. They nod. Some listen, most don't. That's fine. We all learn how we have to. Sometimes I wonder where Lynn is now. Maybe she's with someone new. Maybe she's on a beach again, laughing in a dress I never saw her wear. Maybe she still tells men she's never been in love. Or maybe she doesn't have to anymore. I don't need to know. That's her story to carry. This is mine. I wake up, open the window, and listen to scooters buzz by. I make tea. I will write a little. Sometimes I walk by the lake and watch old men play chess while women toss breadcrumbs to pigeons. It's a slow life, a quiet one, but it's mine now. And I'm not chasing anything anymore. Not love, not forgiveness, not even answers. I still feel the weight sometimes. Of everything I gave, everything I missed, everything I thought I was building. But it doesn't crush me. It just sits with me, like an old friend who overstayed his welcome, but somehow made me better. I don't hate her. I don't hate myself. I left behind a version of me I never want to see again, and maybe that's the only thing that really matters.